everyone, and welcome to Harlequin's most romantic month of the year, February new releases. And yes, I know Valentine's Day is just one day out of the year, but I kind of feel like it defines the whole month. And if you are wondering what should you do for Valentine's Day, what are some good romantic gestures you could put out there, then these books have you covered because they have a lot of great ideas in here. So you are going to want to read all of them. Hi everyone, I'm Lisa from Lisa Latte Books, and you're watching the Harlequin Books channel where we talk all about romance. If you're going to fall in love, why not do it with a hunky Greek billionaire? So in Greek's One Night Babies by Lynn Graham, Lexi ends up having a car crash in the English countryside, and she isn't hurt, but she's not going to make it to the airport. The snow is coming on really thick, but luckily there's a billionaire who lives right up the street and happens to drive by, helps her out of her car, and once he sees how attractive she is, or maybe he was going to do it anyway because he's such a great guy, he invites her to come back to his place and stay because there's no hotels anywhere. They're like out in the middle of nowhere. So she agrees to go back to his massively huge mansion. And they always say a way to a man's heart is through his stomach. So Lexi is kind of like a semi-professional chef. She's not actually doing that for a career, but she did that growing up. And so she cooks him a meal. He finds it amazing. And they end up having a celebratory night together. And fast forward 18 more months, she's actually pregnant. Well, she's now had the triplets after 18 months, and she needs him to help support her because she's not rich, and taking care of 3 babies all at once is a lot of work. So he, being the billionaire problem solver he is, proposes that they get married, but only a fake marriage, even though they both really are in love with each other, but neither of them wants to admit it. So you'll want to read this to see how that marriage ends up. Next is Big Sky Bachelor by Joanna Sims. And in here, we have a story that actually starts out in LA. So don't be fooled by these beautiful mountains because Danica is living her best life ever. She owns a thriving real estate business and she has a wonderful house and a loving, or so she thought, loving fiance. Now, her fiance has just gotten the receptionist pregnant, and well, she's like, I think I'm just gonna go. He actually thinks they can just all date together. So she goes home to Montana, which is where she's from, and she has a huge network of brothers and sisters who are very supportive and loving, and she's just gonna stay there for a couple months and figure out what her next move is. And while she's there, she falls in love with Mateo, who is the small town loving doctor. He's definitely not all about LA, which wouldn't be a big deal, except they're actually totally in love by the end of her time there. And there's a big, will he move to LA or will he convince her to come back to Montana, to this tiny town? So you'll want to read this because this was a really cute couple. They are both super A-type, aggressive, like, let's just start dating and fall in love kind of couple. So there was no like, one was kind of mousy and one was like the chaser and, one was playing hard to get. So this was like instant attraction, insta both like aggressively going after each other. So that was like a nice refreshing change. Like, what would it be like if the other person was actually super interested and totally showed it and didn't have any other issues? They're both like, let's go out, let's do this. And I don't know, I found that kind of nice. Because Montana is so wonderful, we're going to stay there for our next book, which is The Maverick's Promise by Melissa Sennett. So in here, this had like a fun and different kind of romance storytelling method. It was mostly told, at least I think so, from the POV of Diego. Now, normally I'm not into the male POVs, and I know they switch back and forth, but I'll usually kind of skim over those chapters because I'm more interested in the like woman POV. But this one did a great job of making me feel very empathetic and like understanding of Diego's whole wanting to be single and not commit, which I think is major. Usually when a guy doesn't commit and he's a playboy, you're just like, oh, he's just like so selfish. But in this one, his ex left him because she said he would never amount to anything. He wasn't making enough money. He didn't have a good enough career. So he's just kind of emotionally damaged and has some self-confidence issues. So when he meets Jenna and he sees that she has a newborn baby because her husband died just the last year, he's like, I'm not the guy for you because I don't have enough money. Her husband was like a big time realtor, and he's like, you need someone who can provide for you. But he's like super attracted to her, and he wants to help her out because she has some anxiety issues with snowstorms, because that's what happened. Her late husband died in a snowstorm driving. So she's always nervous to drive anytime it's snowy, which it is snowy quite a lot in Montana. So he comes to the rescue. He like drives her. He follows her home when she's worried about driving in the snow. So to her, he's like a real hero, and that's really what she wants. So you'll want to read this to find out if she can help heal his emotional damaged heart and if he can do the same for her. The next is Child in Jeopardy by Dolores Fawson. And just like any good romantic suspense from Dolores Fawson, this one does not waste any time on boring backstory or super long setups. We start right with edge of the seat action. So Slater opens the door and there's a baby. And then a few minutes later, Lana shows up and she's like, hey, I left the baby, but only because the baby is yours. And the mother is my sister, who you dated, obviously, in high school, because that's how they know each other. And she said that you paid her to have the baby as a surrogate, which he's like, whoa, no, I didn't. And then she produces all this paperwork and she's like, everything's here and it's been notarized and it's been signed. So we have some crazy what the heck is going on mystery here. And we have two people who've always been attracted to each other, but for obvious reasons have never really acted on it. So this is your perfect Dolores Fawson, like super red hot chemistry between our two leads, and also a good what the heck mystery is going on. And I also like the fact that Lana is not one of those like wimpy damsel in distress where they're just running all the time. She is ex-military. She works for a private security firm and he's a deputy. So they are both going to work equally on helping to solve this mystery and also protect this baby. The next book has all of my favorite things. It is an Amish romance and a mystery all wrapped into one. So, Grave Amish Secrets by Patricia Jones is a great combination where Penny and Stuart, neither of them are actually Amish, but they're doing a cold case investigation into a small Amish community, and they're both super attracted to each other, and they're both very religious, even though they come from different places. So basically what happened is Penny's family was Amish, but because her grandfather walked out on them 50 years ago, they all kind of just left and became mainstreamers, like they call it being Englishers. And now she's just found the body of her grandfather who died 50 years ago. So he never really walked out on the family. He was killed. So she is determined to figure out who the murderer is. And they're probably still alive because someone is following her, tailing her. But luckily, Stuart is there to protect her. And also because he's her partner, he's going to help her figure out who the real killer is. So this is like my all-time favorite. I know I liked all of the books in the list, but I secretly really love Amish mysteries and romances. I read all of them all the time. So this is pretty much my top pick for the month. And no proper Valentine's Day romance book haul would be complete without a historical romance in there. So we have Tempted by Her Enemy Marquis by Louise Allen. And this isn't your typical, like the London season, looking for a husband. She is a woman on a mission. So Catherine is going to become Will's antiquities librarian, but for nefarious purposes. So her family is nearly destitute and their reputation has been ruined because there's this famous gemstone that she thinks has been stolen by his uncle. Now, he just inherited his uncle's entire estate, and I guess you could call this like whatever shopping addiction and hoarding looked like in the 1800s. The place is just filled with like stuff. It might be valuable stuff, it might not be valuable stuff, and that's why he has had to hire an antiquities expert to come through and go through all the stuff. Now, she is an expert in all of like antiquities and things that are of value, but she's secretly looking to figure out if he or his uncle had stolen the stone. Now, while she is there, she literally falls in his arms, mostly because of a broken ladder, and they end up tangled together and in different embraces while going through, because there's like junk everywhere, right? It's like a 1800 hoarding situation, and they're having dinner obviously every night. So she ends up actually falling in love with him. So it's going to be tough for her to decide, does she want to get revenge on him or does she just want to possibly marry him? That's a wrap on some fantastic February new release romances from Harlequin to make sure you have the most romantic month ever. Now, there are many, many more books that came out in February from Harlequin, so make sure to check those out at harlequin.com. And remember, if you like hearing about romance books, that's all we talk about on this channel. So make sure to hit the subscribe button below. We post new videos all the time. All right, happy reading. Bye.